You on? Well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the unnamed, unlogoed, unintroed show. I am Mike Walters. Eric Fady is here. Thank you, Eric, for being here. And the great 3G, Greg Henson. How are you, buddy?
Fellas, how are you? I'm all bricked up today because college football started. So if you see me looking this way, that's because Nebraska's playing Northwestern, and I'm keeping an eye on it.
Wait, where is that game? They're not in the States, are they?
No, it's in Dublin.
Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, they're playing. Yeah. I mean, what compelled them to put two pretty crappy Big Ten teams in Dublin?
I know.
Right. What are you guys thinking?
It's what they do with all these games. The pros do it too. They take the two worst teams and throw them in London. And it's like, no one's getting up at 9 a.m. to watch the Jets and Jaguars.
That's what everyone says, Jets and Jags. And the Lions have made a couple trips over there too for it because I know it's like when they do Hard Knocks, which, by the way, I got my Dan Campbell 313 shirt on today. See that?
Love it.
There you go.
Love it. So you're supporting.
They do hard. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, he's a meathead, but I hope he wins, but I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's he's a total meathead.
Yeah, but it seems like those guys are buying in.
You know, do you want buy-in from guys who aren't even going to be there in a couple of years if they get good? I mean, I don't know. I think culture's overrated when people talk about buy-in.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's face it. They got 5 or 6 guys right now. The rest are all going to have to go at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I feel bad. I wanted to tell you, and I was nervous to tell you, that I know it's propaganda. I know what HBO is doing. It's propaganda, pure and simple. But
You're
I
not
can't
doing
help
it,
it.
are
I'm
you?
falling for some of it, man, and I'm embarrassed to admit it.
You know what, though? You're not the only one. Lion fans do this every few years when the new coach comes in. But here's the thing. It's not like it's not entertaining. I mean, it's wildly entertaining to watch, but you have to separate it, the TV show, from what's going to happen on the field. It's fun to watch. When Dan Campbell drops a D's nuts joke, I can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
You know, when he calls Rodriguez Rodrigo, it's just funny.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, like, when you watched Aaron Glenn, arguing and fighting back and forth with his defensive line coach, and I'm like, you guys, this is so being played up. You know, guys are looking for gigs when their careers end, but hey, enjoy it, man. There's nothing wrong with enjoying it.
Yeah. Do you like that they've gotten all these former players as coaches? You know, you're talking about Deuce Staley and Aaron Glenn, and I mean, there's so many of them. You got the lefty quarterback Brunell.
Brunell.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Bottom line is, you can either teach or you can't. If they can teach these guys how to play their positions, that's great. But, you know, some of the greatest coaches of all time were no good at football. Some of the greatest managers in baseball of all time, Sparky Anderson, couldn't play a lick. Right. So it's really about how well you teach. They seem to be able to get their point across. We're going to find out quick, though, because the season starts next week.
Yeah, they have a week off, and then it starts, September 11th, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm embarrassed that I'm excited because I was so down on this team, but
you should know better.
I should, and like I said, I know it's propaganda, but I can't help it. I can't help it.
You know what? Enjoy it. It's all you're gonna get when they win their 4 games. I'm not gonna hate on you, but I'll make fun of you.
Yeah, that's fine. I respect it.
I've been sucked in too many times. Too many times.
Yeah, I know. So have I. You know, thank God I'm a 49ers fan at heart, so I can kind of have this Lions project over here that I want to root for them. I want them to win. I want them to be successful. I think this city would go bonkers.
Crazy.
I mean, you thought the Red Wings in '97 was off the hook. If the Lions were to get successful,
that's small potatoes. Potatoes.
Small potatoes. It would be. This city would so rally behind this team. It'd be the best thing for them. But
I agree. And you know what? And I hope it's with Dan Campbell because he seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know that he's that great a coach. He made a lot of mistakes last year on the field. First year, but still, you'd think a guy who played that many years in the league wouldn't make those kind of mistakes. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I hope he wins because it was a blast when Wayne Fontes had competitive teams because he was a fun guy. Yeah. But, you know, like Jim Schwartz and all those other guys are just dorks.
Yeah.
You know, they were no fun. Harbaugh's no fun.
Yeah.
Those guys are just all stiffs.
Yeah, exactly. Sticking with the NFL, what did you make of the Deshaun Watson decision? The NFL's had this real problem, with addressing assaults, violence, whatever the thing may be. It seems like the NFL gets it wrong. And what were your thoughts on the punishment handed down to Deshaun Watson?
The biggest problem I have is that this thing never went to court. I would like to see Deshaun Watson in court, and let's find out what did and didn't happen. I'm just not a huge fan, Mike, of convicting guys in the court of public opinion. We have a justice system for a reason, and I don't know whether he did it or not. But, the argument that people use, well, there's 25 women, something happened. I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do we know? And I don't think the NFL really should be obligated to do anything unless there's some sort of conviction in court. Now, I think it's good PR to suspend him, because they're trying to get women to watch the game, and women aren't going to watch if they think they're a bunch of wife beaters and rapists and sexual predators. But I get real tired of people who want to run and convict guys before anything's happened. And the other thing is, if in fact he sexually assaulted you and you settle, I don't have any time for that. You got to take this guy down. If he really did what you said he did, he's got to go to jail. And all these women took the money. I don't understand that.
Yeah, and that's historically been the way too. You see that all the time where cases fall apart because, the women take a payoff from a tabloid or tell their story, and it just discredits so much so fast. And the fact is, the grand jury looked at this and didn't file charges. I don't know why that is. When you're talking about someone that's super successful, super wealthy, it seems like it'd be easy to get a kind of class action with that lawyer who's dragging all these women in, and why wouldn't they pile on for the money?
Well, and I hate to say this because, well, I don't really hate to say it, but when you've seen so many cases of guys being wrongfully dragged through the mud, and then later we find out that it didn't really go down that way, I'm perfectly willing to wait for it to go to court and get a conviction. If it doesn't go to court and get a conviction, then I don't think he should be suspended at all for anything. That's just PR at that point, because I'm just a law and order guy, man. Let's get this guy in front of a jury. Let's find out what he did. And if there's not enough evidence to put him on trial, then I don't know that there should be any suspension at all. And I know that's not politically correct to say, but, we've just seen it too many times.
Well,
we've seen it too many times.
We have. And, I think we're on the same page, where it's like innocent until proven guilty used to mean something. And it still does to me. And, I agree with you. If you, the NFL loves to lean on this. It's not a right to play in the NFL. It's a privilege.
Right.
And that's their defense every time that something like this comes up, which I think is dishonest. I think they want eyeballs. They know Deshaun Watson can bring eyeballs to those games. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's an 11-game suspension with game 12 being him playing his old team in Texas.
Right.
That doesn't seem like a coincidence to me.
11 games. I mean, come on. Of course, it's not a coincidence. They want that matchup. They want the TV. And, the NFL is not above doing something for ratings and whatever. They're a business. Look, if they want to suspend him, that's their prerogative. They're an independent organization. But I'm with you in the sense that I can't convict. I can't denigrate until we have facts. And I don't know what happened in those rooms. All I know is women are making money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why is this? Why is he settling with these women? And if it was so egregious, they need to file a criminal charge against him for whatever happened and go from there. And they didn't. And that's what bothers me. I'm just not doing that. I'm so tired of it. And, you have a lot of these simp guys who, there's too many of them. It's got to be true. That's not fact. That's your opinion. That's your feelings.
Yeah. And that makes us monsters, too. To even have that opinion, like, I don't know, it's our white male privilege saying that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Defending a black male.
Yeah,
But
right.
I'm perfectly comfortable with people thinking I'm a monster for not wanting a guy tried and convicted in the court of public opinion. That's wrong. And we've seen too much of it with social media. They want to cancel everyone. Like, because I got to be honest, I want to know what happened with this Buffalo punter. I
Oh,
mean, it sounds really bad,
it sounds
but
horrific.
why are we just finding out about this?
Yeah, it sounds like maybe San Diego State was having a pretty successful run. This kid was on
Brady
Sports
Hope.
Center every day. The
Yep.
punt god, as he was
Yeah.
known.
Well, but Brady Hope better worry about his job if he was covering this up.
Yeah. It just used to be so much easier for these guys to go sweep it under the rug and keep the stars on the field. It's just falling apart every day. We see it more and more where these guys. I'm surprised Izzo.
I like the transparency, though, because if this guy really did what this girl alleges, he's got to go to jail. I mean, that is a violent crime. With piercings ripped out and the whole 9 yards. I mean, this doesn't look good for him. But again, I will certainly shut up and let him have his day in court. He should be allowed to stay at his job unless they put him in jail.
Yeah, well, they took him off the field the other day.
Of course.
Even
though we don't even know if he did it or not.
No, I know. It sounds really bad. I can read you some of the details here.
Oh,
for people.
It's pretty bad.
It's very bad. And so the woman at the center of the lawsuit, she spoke out publicly last month for the first time. She's now 18. Says she had to finish her senior year of high school online. The off-campus party started October 16th. The assault occurred in the early hours, so after midnight on October 17th. In her lawsuit, she said she'd already been drinking with friends when they arrived at the party on Rockford Drive, and Arijah, who lived at the home, gave her a drink. She believes it not only contained alcohol, but other intoxicating substances. His attorney said he does not believe the teen was under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Really? So you've got an off-campus college party and you think this girl's not drinking?
It was fruit punch.
Sure. This would be the first girl in history to go to, as a high school senior, to go to an off-campus college party and not be drinking. That's absurd.
Right, exactly. They probably were all drinking.
Yeah, of course they were. We've all been to those parties. We know what goes on there.
I went to one last night.
So she said even though he could see she was highly intoxicated, he told her to perform oral sex, then had sex with her. Then he allegedly took her to a bedroom where a couple of his teammates were with at least another guy, threw her down on the bed face first. She was raped for an hour and a half until the party was shut down. She noticed light as if someone was filming this, by the way, which if that comes out, holy shit.
That's a felony in and of itself.
Right. And this is what you were talking about. She stumbles out of the room, bloody and crying. Her nose, belly button, and ear piercings had been pulled out, and she was bleeding from her vagina. Damn.
Not good, man.
No.
Well, I got a ton of respect for her to file a case, though.
Yeah.
She's not going to settle. She's going to put his ass in jail.
Yeah. And he could go to jail for a long time for something like that. I mean, if this proves true, but then I found this interesting too. At the request of the police, she made pretext calls, which means they were recording it and kind of feeding her some questions. So they did determine that these guys were in the room when the rape occurred. Arijah confirmed in a call in October that they did have sex and recommended she get tested for an STD. Jesus.
This guy sounds like a real winner, man.
Yeah, he does. Later,
dude, you're a punter. You're not a star quarterback.
Exactly. With 5 years experience where the league's been promoting you ad nauseum. You're just coming into the league. She asked him in this conversation, did we actually have sex? He changed his tone and said, this is Matt Arijah. I don't remember anything that happened that night.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But they weren't drinking. How can you forget?
Yeah.
If everyone wasn't drinking, right? Crazy.
God, yeah.
I don't know, man. Those kind of stories make me cringe because it's just a lack of self-respect, a lack of respect for women. And I'm willing to give him his day in court, but that looks really bad.
It looks really bad. If any part of that story is true,
right.
And the
other than he had sex with her, because that's pretty normal, right? But even though she's underage, technically, well, not, I guess 17 is not underage, but
17 and 21, they don't usually prosecute stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it'd be one thing if one of us banged a 17-year-old, but for a
Right.
21-year-old in
That's just
college,
creepy.
yeah, yeah, it's a different story. But you know, I haven't been this excited for a punter since Ray Guy. I mean, the
Oh,
guy's
I know.
absolutely fun as hell to watch. I mean, he bombs 80-yarders.
I know he's crazy. I saw him play in that first exhibition or preseason game, and he was fascinating to watch. I hadn't heard of him until my kid turned me on to him. He's like, check this dude out. They call him the punt god, and he's
Yeah,
railing off 70-yard punts all the time. So I thought
yeah,
that was kind of cool.
yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
I just watched it. Somebody's on the 1 yard line.
you can't help yourself, can you?
I can't, man. It's so exciting.
Have you always been a sports junkie?
Oh yeah, since I was little, I was going to be the next Ernie Harwell until
Yeah,
I realized that there's only 30 of those jobs in the world.
yeah.
But you have to remember, sports radio didn't exist when I got into radio. I got in in '88, right out of high school, and we didn't have sports radio. So I worked with JJ in the morning crew and worked with Eli Zarrett, who was our sports guy, for 6 years before the fan came to town. So for many years, there just wasn't any sports radio. But I've always been a big geek about it, so it kind of saved my career because I don't think I would have wanted to do music.
Hold on one second. I'm getting what's going on, T. I can't. Oh, he's way louder than me. All right, fix that. Sorry, Greg.
No, that's
So,
okay. I can't tell the difference.
yeah, I can't either. It all sounds good to me.
Yeah,
What
it
do you
sounds really good.
Yeah. What and I'm really excited, man. It turns out you're coming to town next week.
Yep,
And,
I'm coming for the Michigan game. I have season tickets for Michigan, and my teenagers like to go now, and my young son plays hockey, so this will probably be the only chance he gets to see him all year. So we're going to roll up there, and
Yeah.
we should do the show Friday together somewhere.
Yeah,
We're
we'll do
going to
it
do
here.
your place?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Have you in studio, and that'll be a ton of fun.
Okay,
Sure.
cool.
So, how do you think Michigan's going to look this year?
Pretty good. They don't play anybody really until Ohio State. I mean, Michigan State and Penn State are there. Got to go to Iowa. But I think the offense should be good enough to win games while the defense gets its feet up under it. So they'll be pretty good. Maybe one loss, maybe two if they do their typical thing and lose a game they shouldn't.
Yeah,
Like if they lose to State again or something, which I just don't think's happening this year.
yeah. Well, I'm excited. I haven't been this excited for the start of football season in quite a while, pro and
Yeah.
college. So,
Well, last year I was excited, but you had to be cautious because you didn't know what Michigan was coming off of because the year before was so bad. They were 2-4 off the COVID year. So I'm pretty excited. I think the expectations are warranted. They're going to be a good team. I just don't know what the hell they're going to do at quarterback. They're going to. I'm so fearful they're going to waste J.J. McCarthy's talent and play Cade because he's the safe pick, and that's Michigan football. Play it safe.
but nowadays a kid like that'll just leave.
I know. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, I know. Troy and I were talking about it early about Cade probably getting the starting nod, and it's like, God, you've got this young kid that's got a rocket for an arm. We've seen briefly seen him hit, on some stuff where he's made throws. I'm like, I can't remember anyone making a throw like that.
Maybe Drew Henson. He could make some good throws back in the day, but
Yeah,
JJ is just on another level talent-wise. But you know how Michigan is. It's so typical of Michigan to be risk-averse. They don't want to turn the ball over, which I get, and that's smart. But I would rather have a couple more turnovers and have that high-end quarterback who can win games by himself. They think JJ risks the ball too much. He throws it up into double coverage. He throws on the run too much. And that's just not Michigan. That's not Harbaugh. And that was not Bo. So they're going to try to do what they did last year and throw the ball a little more. But everyone says when McNamara is out there, he's in total command and the ball never hits the turf was the quote they're all using. So he's very accurate. So it'll be interesting to see. You might need, I agree with you, though. These guys will just up and leave. Although I think he's different. I think McNamara is a Michigan nerd. I think he loves the place. And they're lucky because most guys would just bail.
yeah,
But, Cade's not chopped liver. He holds every passing record in Nevada history of high school football. He was a Notre Dame commit before he decommitted to go to Michigan. The guy can play ball.
yeah. Well, it'll be exciting to watch. I hope, I imagine if they do go with Cade, that then JJ will just come in for spot duty here and there like he did last year.
I think he'll get more snaps this year.
Yeah.
Like third down and medium, 3rd and 5. Give him another element to prepare for. But yeah. I think he's going to get some time. But the fact is he'd have to stay here 5 years to get the starting job if it stays this way.
Yeah, which he won't. No kid with that kind of talent's going to stick around.
I wouldn't. Why would you?
No, why would you? He could go anywhere probably.
Yep, and everyone would love to have him.
Hey, I'd love to get your opinion on something totally unrelated. As a 49er fan, I know I'm a racist if I don't support Trey Lance no matter what across the board. That just makes me a racist. But I just don't see it, man. I don't know what your thoughts are on Trey Lance, but they're hyping this guy up like, oh yeah, he's a for sure. I think he's slow in the pocket. He's not quick. He might be fast, but he's not quick. He doesn't get rid of the ball fast enough. He doesn't throw a tight spiral. I don't know. What are you from an outside perspective? Do you have any thoughts on Trey Lance?
I don't pay much attention to him, but I do. I do wonder if he's going to have the ability to play in the league. I know a lot of guys. A lot of guys in last year's draft don't do it for me. I don't like Malik Willis. Didn't want him. I feel like these quarterbacks that come into the NFL, I don't even know if I like Trevor Lawrence.
I know, me
at this point. It's like, and Tua, this mic just is going to show you how difficult it is to find a great quarterback in this league. It's not easy. There's very few guys who are just really, really effing good when they come out. Josh Allen, being one of them probably. But, Trey Lance, I'm not convinced. I'm not. And it just shows you what a crapshoot it is with these guys. I need to see more of him, but the early returns are very, very average.
Yeah. And
if they want him to be the franchise quarterback.
Yeah. And they're going to have a lot of explaining to do because love him or hate him, Jimmy Garoppolo took him to an NFC championship game and a Super Bowl. And it was a play away from winning it all. And it's like, he's got a quick release. He's got a big arm. He's not mobile, but, to switch gears.
I thought you were going to ask me about Kaepernick.
I love that. I hope a franchise signs Kaepernick, by the way. I really
just to see how bad he is.
Oh, my God.
He's terrible.
He was horrible. As someone who watched literally every snap of that guy's career, when he came into the league, he had a stacked defense and he had a ton of weapons on offense. And the league hadn't seen a running quarterback do what he was able to do, but they adjusted. And within a couple
they always
of years,
figure it out. Ask RG3.
Yeah.
If you can't throw the ball accurately, they will figure you out.
Yeah.
That's why you see guys like Deshaun Watson. He can throw the ball. That's why you see a guy like Lamar Jackson. He can throw the ball a little bit. But if you can't throw the ball and you're just going to run, they're going to figure it out. They'll always do.
Yep. And so he rushes for 200 plus yards in a playoff game against the Packers, and then they started to figure him out, and then that team started to drop off a little bit. His accuracy was garbage. That's the fact about Colin Kaepernick. His accuracy was shit, and so when he started taking a knee, it just coincided with when he was getting benched.
Yeah,
and
he knew it.
Yeah, of course.
He knew it was over, and he's making more money as a race pimp and somebody in the grievance industry, which pays very well. Ask Jamel Hill,
right?
But the grievance industry pays. It really does, and he's smart to do it.
He's making more than he ever would have made in the NFL. Big
time, because Nike bought into the crap, and other sponsors brought into his freedom fighter baloney. And they paid him, but it's all virtue signaling by these companies. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's better to be infamous now than to be good at something. It's better to be infamous now than to be actually good at something.
Yep. And any 49er fan that watched him the last couple of years knew this is not going to work. This dude is not at this level. So to act like, he works people up and he trends more than almost anybody on Twitter. And the amount of people that come to his defense as if taking 6 years off in the NFL, you're just going to walk back into the field when you weren't that good to begin with, is so laughable. I want one of these virtue signaling GMs or coaches, go to Oakland or go to Vegas. Good, sign him up. They didn't even they brought him in for a workout and bragged about how great he was. They didn't even invite him to camp.
I know. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
See, these guys, these virtue signalers. First of all, what they do is right, and this is I'll say the same thing about the raid that Biden's DOJ did on Trump.
Yeah.
It's more about the accusation and about the how it looks, I should say, than it is about actually what it means. For example, they just wanted everyone to think that they were so open-minded and they were so, going to give Colin Kaepernick his chance, but they knew deep down they were never bringing him to camp. They knew that. Yep. Just like with the DOJ raiding Trump's place, right? They know that the accusation's worse than anything they could accuse him of.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing there. This is going to disappear. There'll be no charges.
Yep.
But the accusation's there. They can just hang it around his neck. You know what I mean? 100%. And that's really what it is. That's what everything is nowadays. Get out in front of it.
Yeah, and the problem is when you leak this sort of stuff to the media, and you damage someone forever. Like,
right.
If Matt Arija is completely innocent in this, it doesn't matter. He is known as a rapist, pure and simple. Trump, it doesn't matter how innocent he is. As if Trump was packing up nuclear secrets and stuffing them in boxes and taking them home. Like, that's the way that process works. But it doesn't matter. The accusation's leveled, and I have super lib friends who are like, "Oh, it's done now. He's going to jail."
It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time before they frog walk him. That, and that's the thing they keep wanting to say it. I'm like the day all this raid stuff went down, and my wife's a lib, but she's a pretty traditional Clinton lib, right? She's a moderate to left Union Democrat. So the day that happened, she's like, "Oh, they got him now." And I looked at her. I said, "Do you realize there'll be no charges? This'll disappear." And once again, you guys will be standing there saying, "Oh, we got him now. We got him now."
How many times do you have to fall for it? It's unbelievable to me. The whole Russian. Yeah.
I'm telling you, though, the same thing with this goddamn school loan forgiveness.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but
sure.
Yesterday, the White House was tweeting out which Republican members of Congress didn't pay back their PPP loans, payroll protection plan, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, number one, they're using the official White House Twitter account to run down members of Congress who took the loans and didn't have to pay them back. But they created this false equivalency between someone taking a school loan voluntarily and not paying it back. You're a scumbag and a deadbeat if you do that. And number two, they're acting like that's the same thing as taking a payroll protection plan loan, which you had to take, and if you retained 60+% of your workforce, you didn't have to pay back. That's how it worked. No one did anything untoward or wrong with PayPal or with payroll protection plan. But if you don't pay back your school loan, you're a deadbeat scumbag. You're dead to me. That makes me sick. I've never been more angry about a political point than somebody getting debt relief on my back. I cash flowed my college. I didn't go away and party at Michigan State or Michigan like everyone else. I went to OCC and Wayne State where I could afford it. So to have the audacity and the entitlement to feel like you should get your loan forgiven because it's predatory lending is just stupid. I don't want to hear about you can't pay your student loan when you had an $1,100 iPhone and a new car, okay? Drive a beater till your loan's paid off. That's what I did. And I feel like they're telling us what a bunch of suckers we are for paying our bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I pay cash.
Yeah, and a lot of us didn't go to college, didn't incur those debts on purpose. It's the same thing with when you're talking about accrued wealth and this whole equity thing. Like, my grandfather worked every day, took the train to work in San Francisco, worked every day, saved every penny. He was one of those guys.
I did too.
I'm going to leave whatever I can for my only child, my son, so my dad. And it was like, he didn't take his wife on vacations. He didn't buy new cars. He didn't go out to restaurants all the time. He saved and saved and saved and made his own person. He had season tickets to Candlestick. But other than that, that was his one thing.
Giants or Niners?
Both.
Nice.
Season tickets for the Niners, but Yeah, I would
Okay.
go to a lot of Giants games. But he worked his ass off his whole life. He's a Pearl Harbor survivor, and saved every penny so that he could make his son's life a little easier and better. And
Right.
it's like now you want to redistribute wealth, or like I just don't understand it. People taking out these loans, it's like, yeah, you took out a loan for a bullshit degree in, God knows what, gender studies
Lesbian
course.
gender studies, right?
Exactly, exactly. And now you want the taxpayers to pay this back to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars?
Well, number one, I'm glad it will never happen because this will it's unconstitutional as hell. This will get shot down in the courts. But the thing that really pisses me off is they feel like they're entitled to it.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I was watching the news with my wife and I said, God, this pisses me off. She goes, well, what do you care? And I'm like, because I'm paying it.
Yeah.
You're paying it. You paid cash for your college. I paid cash for my college. How dare some numbnut expect me and my kids to pay for their goddamn college? I'm telling you, Mike, this is one. I don't often get pissed about politics because I kind of get the game. But this is a big fuck you from Joe Biden to every middle class person on in this country. It really is, and it just drives me crazy.
Yeah, it should.
Can I say fuck you, by the way?
Yeah, you did. That's okay. We're on a podcast. We're allowed to do that. No, it's infuriating, and it seems to me like you'd be able to stumble into something I'd agree with just on accident. Like, hey, look what this president did. Holy shit, I didn't expect that from him. I can't think of anything, and I know my liberal friends are screaming at the fucking YouTube right now watching us, but it's so infuriating to me where it's like you can't even accidentally stumble into something that I agree with.
Well, and now you're seeing the spin that really bothers me is they're saying, well, gas prices are down. No, they're still up over $1. Yeah, inflation's still up. These people last month, when inflation went from 9.1 to 8.5, he had the audacity to say it was at 0.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's just less than it was last month. It's still there.
Yeah.
And they point at the stock market. And I'm like, well, of course the stock market's higher than when Trump was in office. Trump's got torpedoed because of COVID that the Democrats wanted to shut down. So I feel like Joe Biden is just being led around by the nose by the far left wing. And there's a reckoning coming in November. There just is. And I know, and even the media is trying to prop him up, saying, oh, it's the Biden summer comeback. And no, it's not. It's just not. No. They're going to get slaughtered.
Yeah, I think so too. And I usually stay out of making a call like so-and-so's going to win an election. I just don't. You never know with these things. But I've said that on air too. This guy's going to get slaughtered in November. This is going to be a bloodbath. And
if it's not, I'll lose all hope.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I will too. I don't know what I'll do. That'll be so concerning.
In the end, we'll do nothing and like it, but I'll be really shocked if this country doesn't turn on Biden in this election. After everything we've seen the last 2 years, I mean, it's insane. Now we can't buy gas cars in 10 years in California. I mean, what are we doing? What the hell are we doing?
We need to just forget about California altogether. That
I
is
agree.
just a lost
And New York
cause.
too, because they're going to do it too.
Yeah. As you know, my family's from San Francisco area, and I go out there all the time. I still have family there, and my parents have a house there, and it is remarkable to see the streets. It's not believable to the average person. You see a homeless guy at Woodward and 13 or whatever. Out there, it is like their answer is, let them take over the entire sidewalk for a quarter mile and just put porta potties on each end of it. It's every bridge. It's every street. It's everywhere.
Well, and the drugs too. Like Los Angeles is worse, believe it or not. Used to be the other way around. Used to be San Francisco was worse, but when I was in Hollywood, they've taken over Hollywood Boulevard. No one goes to Venice Beach anymore because it's a cesspool. I went down to Venice Beach and I witnessed a woman pissing down herself while eating out of a garbage can.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. And then my kids and I were leaving to go to Vegas, and we jumped on the freeway. And as we were getting on, there was a guy on the side of the road just standing there with his dick hanging out. I mean, it was just like, what are we doing here? You know, somebody's got, and they think that idiot Newsom's going to run for president. No one's voting for that ball bag. There's no chance in hell.
Hopefully
I agree.
He does run.
I hope he does.
Run Kamala Harris. Run Pete Buttigieg. Run all of them. Right. Dude, I was in San Francisco. I was with my brother-in-law, and we were walking. Can't remember what street we were on, but we were going to a vape shop. He wanted to pick up some stuff, and there's three guys in front of us, and we're walking up some stairs, and this one guy, I swear to God, they're all homeless. There's a shopping cart and whatever.
Right.
In the middle of conversation, pulls his pants down and shits on the sidewalk they're walking on.
Oh, that used to happen out front of WDFN back in the day. We had a guy named Whizzer. One day, Whizzer used to just piss everywhere, right, outside of our door. And one day we walk out, and he's just shitting on in front of DFN.
What?
I mean, I think Stoney saw it and said, Whizzer's outside taking a shit in the sidewalk. I think it was Stoney who saw it. So we all go running out, and sure enough, Whizzer's taking a shit.
And he was known as Whizzer because he would whiz on the
he just
sidewalk.
Pissed everywhere outside our building. Yeah,
just a homeless guy.
Homeless guy, yep, drunken homeless guy wandering the back streets of Detroit over by Dunleavy's, and just pissing all over our building every night. It was bad.
Yeah. I saw another guy.
That's everywhere in California.
What's that?
It's everywhere in California.
Oh yeah, I saw a guy jacking off in the streets. The other ones, I swear to God.
Was it me?
Another one. What's that? What'd you say?
Was it me?
No, it wasn't you. But I've seen guys sleeping on the curb. Huh?
When in Rome.
Yeah, but it's everywhere, and the funny thing is, it's tearing the city apart. You know, the chains, you know, the CVS's and the Walgreens, they're just leaving. They're not going to put up with that. Where, you know, they don't. I don't know. I don't know why they put up with it. And
the smash and grabs would have been enough for me.
Yeah.
Where they just walk in, 20 homeless people or 20 kids, and they come in and ransack the place, take what they want and leave. I'd shut my doors the next day if I was CVS.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people.
This is all, Mike, sorry to interrupt. It's all a direct result of the summer of love in 2020.
Yep. And 60 years of, you know, the leaders you've hired. Yep. You know, you've hired these people, you live with it.
You get what you vote for. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know what you're talking about at Venice Beach. I wasn't at Venice Beach. It might have been Manhattan Beach or one of those. But it's like the people watching is insane. Like you've just got absolute crazy people walking around screaming at the sky in the middle of families. And
well, it's funny because when I took my kids are teenagers. They wanted to see where they did White Men Can't Jump. You know, they wanted to play basketball on Venice Beach. We bought them a basketball, let them play for a while. And then we said, this is kind of sketchy. Let's go to Santa Monica. It was just really bad. Yeah. And, you know, I went there 20 years ago, and it was great. Guys pumping iron on the beach, people working out, playing hoops everywhere. All the shops were open.
Yep.
I'd never go back. There's no reason.
No.
It's ruined. They've ruined it.
Yeah, and they know what they're doing too, and I don't know why nobody cares. Like, prime example was the Super Bowl, having it at SoFi Stadium. In a day, they were able to clean all that shit out of there and move all those people out. You know, because they wanted to give the image that this is the same normal, beautiful Los Angeles you're used to. And it's like, you had to move 5,000 people off your beaches who were just camped out.
It's crazy, man. I went up to California for 2 weeks last summer. I really enjoyed it. I like San Francisco. I love that city.
I do too.
I would live in San Francisco if I could afford it.
Yeah.
And I always thought I wanted to try LA too, but not now. I was really disappointed in what I saw in Los Angeles. Yeah. Other than going to Dodger Stadium, which I love. Yeah. And other than that, it was just there's nothing there. San Francisco is still viable in my mind, but man, what I saw in Los Angeles was a mess, and that's the policies that you vote for. That's what you get.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't know why the families still put up with it, but they do, and
I know.
It is what it is. Hey,
I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, when you started doing the Detroit cast, was that you and Mike?
Yeah, Mike Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I always wondered why you weren't working with Fellauer and Mike or Drew.
Yeah, well, you know what? I had bought equipment to do a studio downstairs, and the plan. We were still on the Drew and Mike show at the time, and the plan was Fellauer and I were going to try this new podcasting thing. I was just going to set it up in my basement. On the weekends, we'd just do a show and see what we could do, see if we had any chops at all. And then we were getting let go from Riff, but Mark and I knew that there was another deal being in the works at 105.1. They were going to flip to that sports station. And so we had like 6 months off paid. I hooked up the studio, and I had Drew and Mark come over, and the three of us were doing a show because that was all they were inviting to this new station was Mark, myself, and Drew. We took photos, you know, for press releases and shit. And I just...
They didn't want Mike?
No.
But Mike was the sports guy too, wasn't he?
Not well, you know, he loves the Spartans, but he not really an X's and O's. Certainly not someone you would have on like a sports station, you know.
Well, that's because the programmer didn't know what he was doing.
Right. And Drew can hold his own, but he's not like a, you know, he's got a photographic memory of sorts, and so he can pull all the stats out. He's obviously amazing on the air. Mike is not like that. He should have
just left you guys alone.
Yeah. I think Drew wanted to stop getting up at 4 a.m, to be honest with you. And we had plenty of other problems. But as the day grew closer to go to that station, I just couldn't do it. And I didn't handle it well, to be honest with you. You know, I'd had a ton of meetings at the Townsend with the guys from Boston, and they knew I wasn't happy, and I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. And, you know, I kind of left them hanging. They had to ditch all the publicity photos and everything because I'm in them. You know, the press release had my name in it and shit, and I kind of, you know, I think Drew was not thrilled with me for a while there. We're good now, but you know, they're doing their thing. And so I called Mike Clark before I made my final decision. I called him and I said, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking about not going to do this sports show. Would you be interested in doing a show with me over at the house?" And he was like, "Hell yeah." But we were starting out. We weren't going to make money right away. And Mike wanted money, you know, if he was going to do anything. So we did, I don't know, what did we do, Eric? A couple months?
Yeah. Like, well, like 6 probably.
I think
or maybe 4.
I think we only did 17 shows, but we were doing like 3 a week or 2 a week or something.
August, September, October, November, December, January. No, like 6 months or so he was still on the show.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Around February.
Yeah.
Was when he bailed. Or not bailed, but whatever.
Yeah, his dog died, and then he was like, it was like the end of the world for him. But, you know, it was fun. It was fun. We did some good shows. We had some laughs. People love hearing Mike Clark, obviously.
Right. He's great.
Yeah. But we are, what I was going to mention to you is we're doing a podcast, and the podcast world is different from radio, which is where we come from. I don't know if you saw the dust up at Podcast Movement. Are you familiar with
about Ben Shapiro?
Yes.
Now, I have full disclosure. I love Ben Shapiro.
So do I.
He's my go-to now that Rush has passed. I put him on my station here.
Okay.
And
syndicated, obviously.
Yeah, he does a 2-hour show every day, and I put him on here, and he's my go-to podcast for politics because he brings receipts. But why don't you explain what happened? Because what happened to him is really an indication of what's wrong.
Yeah, and it's terrifying that people respond the way they did. So, you know, they host Podcast Movement. They're a group that hosts the world's largest annual conference for the podcast industry. They had to issue an apology after one event attender complained on social media that Ben Shapiro was allowed to show his face at the venue. So he's there.
That he bought a booth at.
Daily Wire bought a booth there. And so he shows up there, and obviously people want pictures with him, maybe sign something. And he's not part of the event. He's not taking the stage. He's just hanging out at the booth, meeting fans, taking pictures with him, and people lost their minds over this. Like
one person.
And so what does
some transgender tweeted at Podcast Movement saying I don't know if it was a she or a he, felt threatened by
Yeah.
his presence because Ben refuses to use pronouns. He uses biological pronouns only.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
that was threatening to this person.
Oh my God,
And
this idea
podcast,
of being threatened or just by being in someone's presence, they're in the same hall as you. So
it's a
podcast movement.
microaggression, Mike. It's a microaggression.
Yeah, right. I used to find them hilarious, like the stories
Me
on
too.
microaggressions. It was just comical. But now that it's being used in reality, like, and people are losing jobs over it, or, there was a story we had about, what was it, E? The kid that in school that identified as a cat
Oh my
and
God,
demanded
yeah.
that his fellow students
Yeah.
in the hallway meow at him. And when a couple didn't, they were suspended for like hate crimes of some
Correct.
sort.
Yeah, about
I mean,
that.
yeah, it's
You have to keep in mind when the left comes out with a fringe idea, within years, it's in the mainstream.
Right.
It always happens. Rush used to say this all the time. Here's the funny one. 3 years ago, before Rush passed, he used to say, "You watch. Before he was ready to run for president, they'll be calling DeSantis worse than Trump."
yes,
And they are.
They are.
They're already calling him worse than Trump.
yeah,
And I'm like, in what way is he worse than Trump?
yeah.
But to get back to the story, podcast movement, do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, their
What they
apology.
said?
Yes.
Read this thing. It's unbelievable.
It's unreal. So podcast movement at PM22, which is a blue check on Twitter, said, "Hi, folks, we owe you an apology before sessions kick off for the day. Yesterday afternoon, Ben Shapiro briefly visited the PM22 Expo area near the Daily Wire booth. Though he was not registered or expected, we take full responsibility for the harm done by his presence." Then they tweet, "Those of you who called this unacceptable are right. In 9 wonderful years, growing and celebrating this medium, podcast movement has made mistakes. The pain caused by this one will always stick with us. We promise that sponsors will be more carefully considered moving forward." And then the final one is, just to clarify, the no Daily Wire representatives were scheduled to appear on panels, and Shapiro remained in the common space and did not have a badge. If you have questions, we're here to talk. Thank you for reading, and we hope you'll continue to join us from here on out.
Yeah, what's Ben Shapiro? 5'6"?
Yeah, with his little beanie on, he's got his yarmulke on everywhere he goes. And
Do you know why his presence threatens people? Because he's too smart for you.
yes, I love it. I was looking at Twitter today, and people are going, "He may have gone to Harvard, but he's the dumbest person I've ever seen."
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. Like, really? There's a lot of things you can rag on Ben Shapiro. You don't like his opinion on gay marriage or abortion, whatever.
Sure.
To each their own. But to call him stupid, we're
The guy
living in a
brings
clown
receipts,
world.
man.
He does.
It is. Everything is right is wrong. Everything is up is down. And I'm telling you, man, I hope we can pull it out of the fire and just get back to normalcy where we can agree on the basic facts, right? The basic facts used to mean if you had a CAC, you were a boy. If you had a V, you were a chick.
Yeah.
We can't even agree on that anymore.
No.
And it's like, we need to be able to go back to where we could just say, okay, here's the baseline. This is what's real and what's not.
Exactly.
But instead it's like microaggressions and pronouns and transgender and all this. I had some lady tell me the other day that I was disgusting because I didn't believe in transgenderism. I said it's cross-dressing.
Yeah.
Unless you do the surgery, I believe in gender dysphoria. I believe that's a problem.
I believe it's rare.
I believe it's rare too. I believe a lot of people who are doing it do it now because it's the hip thing to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people just say they're transgendered because maybe there's mental illness there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're depressed. I think it's really rare.
Well,
but when you put it on TV and teach kids about it before they're even ready to be taught about sexuality, this is what happens.
Yeah. Well, I have a listener. It's very interesting. I had him in studio. His name's Garrett. He goes by the TDC Woke Bay, and he's young. And when I first got introduced to him, he was just following the show and dressed full head to toe like a woman. And I was like, "Do you, man? I don't care."
Right. I don't care.
And I couldn't care less, to be honest with you. And he thought So he got into this internet world where he was getting all kinds of acceptance from people. You go, you're trans, and he started buying into it. And he came out to his parents, who were super supportive of him. They were super supportive. Right. And he said, I think I'm transgender. And his mom said, you're not transgender. You're just not. Yeah. So she said, let's go step by step. And if you are, we'll get there. But for right now, let's not just throw this around. But he got so much encouragement from people online that were championing him at a very young, impressionable age, that he was close to going full trans. And it turns out he was just a gay man or a bi man. And he's great. His parents supported him. But he said it was so easy to get talked into this thing. And he said, I was going down a road where I was going to start taking hormones and talking about surgery. It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
I don't know if you ever listened to me and Michelle when we were on 97.1, but we had a transgender woman on the show who he was actually, before he transitioned, he was an MP in the Army. He was 6'3", red hair, big dude, went to Mexico and actually went through with the surgery. So in my book, he's now a woman, because I will totally, if you go through with the surgery, I'm fine with it. Yeah. But I will tell you how things have changed, because her name was Penny, and Penny would come in, and I'm telling you, she was destitute. She couldn't get a job because she was transgender. Yeah. She didn't have any friends. It was awful. So I like the fact that there's acceptance of it. I don't like the fact that they're pushing it, and it's getting pushed. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's getting pushed. But we used to have to give her food coupons so she could eat, because she didn't have a job. She couldn't get a job. Yeah. So the acceptance thing is fine. But when you start telling kids when they're little that they're trans, and that's just not right. It's not right.
Well, Libs of TikTok is one of my favorite.
Love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And some of the stuff is so disturbing. And I don't know how people deny that. When you've got, teacher comes on and what do you know? She's non-binary with purple hair. And she's telling a classroom full of second graders all about gender ideology. And what do you know? 2 of them in class claim to be trans too.
Look, because the teacher's going to show me some interest in me now.
Right.
That's why they want acceptance. They're little kids.
How is that not obvious to everyone, though?
Here's what they do. When I say stuff like that to my wife, who's, again, she is a very traditional lib, not a progressive. Right. She'll say to me, no one does that. Teachers don't do that. And I'm like, it's right there. Yeah. Right there on TikTok. You can, unless she's not a teacher and she's faking it, right?
Which they're not.
They're not. No. But they always deny it's happening. Yeah. And it often makes me wonder if guys like you and I, who read everything and watch everything, are too into it. Are we seeing the fringes too much? I think that's a legit question I have to ask myself.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Because my liberal friends say the same thing as your wife. Like, this isn't really happening. But
my CRT, my wife insists it's not happening, Mike.
Bullshit. It is happening. I mean, I agree. I read the stories. They mention the superintendents. They mention the school board. They're showing receipts proudly about what they're doing.
I agree.
And this is a weird road we're traveling with all of this stuff. And I think it freaks out 80% of the country. I really do. I think
that's why the reckoning is coming. That pendulum is going to swing. Yeah. Because normal people who work for a living and do what they're asked, follow the rules, we're not really suckers. Yeah. We get taken for suckers, but I believe the great normal unwashed will have to fix this because of what has been done, I think, largely by educational institutes and the media.
Yeah, the media is the biggest criminal in my mind. The media, has a really big responsibility for what we consume, what we know, and it's so easy. If you do this like what we do, where we watch everything, we listen to everything, it's never enough. No. It's so easy to pick out the lies. I used to say, especially during Trump's run for election, I would watch an hour-long press conference in the afternoon, and then I would watch Don Lemon cut that into fucking sound bites and take it totally out of context, completely not what was said. And I understand for the normal guy and man and wife going to work all day, dealing with their kids, they only got 30 minutes to watch the news, and they're watching lies. They just are. And it's like, there's no talking them out of it. And it's just criminal. It's criminal to me.
It really is. My favorite story, or my favorite example of this is I grew up watching Mort Krim on Channel 4, right? Sure. I love Mort. Mort was great. Well, once Mort retired, you could see that he was an extreme leftist on his Facebook page. And so for all those years, my news was filtered through Mort Krim, who is a borderline progressive. And I thought, Jesus Christ, all those years, I trusted this guy. And he was an avowed leftist. And I don't know what Bill Bonds was, but I'm pretty sure Billy wasn't a leftist.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But if you think about all these people you watch who you think are journalists are not.
No,
like
they're activists.
Don Lemon, I expect that from. He's a hack opinion guy.
Yeah.
But with a guy, I mean, to me, Mort Krim, Bill Bonds, and Joe Glover were the guys who told me the truth. Mm-hmm. And Mort, more often than not, because they had the Tigers, so I always had Channel 4 on, right?
Yeah.
And so Mort, I believed everything he said. And now I see some of his Facebook posts, and I'm like, holy shit, Mort. Him and Huel Perkins.
Really?
Huel will only post stories about black people, good or bad. He never posts a story about a white person doing something good and bad. I've always joked with him about it. I'm like, what are you, the Soul Train News? What are you doing, Huel?
What are you doing?
And he's a good dude. You can talk to Huel, but he does definitely have a slant. He's a Democrat, clearly, and he's a pro African American cheerleader, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I wish we'd go back to the old days where it didn't matter. Just perform.
I agree.
Do your job well. Harry Hairston was my guy. He used to wrap up the 10 o'clock news and come into Roosevelt's when I would wait. Tables there, and he'd walk in and he'd pull up on his Harley. He'd walk in and he'd go, "Where they at?" He was looking for the white bitches. There's a table of 8 in the 800 section, man.
Where are they at?
Where are they at?
That was funny because I used to, some of those guys I used to do their shows with, like I did the Bill Bonds show a couple times, and I was on with, was it Joe? I don't remember. They all got drunk after their shows in their offices. They would just sit in there and pound back vodka all night. It's hilarious.
Yeah, well, Harry would just pull his Harley up to the front. He wouldn't even find a parking space right at the front door, and he'd just walk in and start putting them down. I loved it, though.
Back when men were men.
Absolutely. It was great. Well, hey, man, you know what? Funny. This has been a ton of fun, Greg. We've done an hour. I don't know what the hell this show's going to be, but it's so great talking to you. I love talking to radio guys, as you know.
Me too.
And yeah. So I'd encourage people to send emails. For right now, just use walters@detroitcast.com. Send me an email, anything you want us to touch on or whatever. You can follow Greg at Greg Henson on Instagram. I'm assuming that's your handle on Twitter as well.
Yeah, Twitter. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3G, so GREGG, as most of you know. And I'm getting feedback already. People really, really loved you and Michelle. And, a lot of people saying you're just a legend from your DFN days and all your time in Michigan. You remember Ray Templin?
I love Ray.
Yeah.
Ray was one of my tech guys, man. Hard-working dude.
Yeah, well, he's already reached out to me going, because I made that post saying no logo, no intros, no nothing. He's like, dude, I can do audio, video, logos, all that shit for you if you want. So we might have to circle.
He did a lot of good work for me back in the day. I love Ray.
Yeah. All right, Greg. Well, I'm so excited for next week that you're going to be in town.
Yeah.
Bring your kids over. Let them swim in the pool with Cece if you want. And we'll bang out a show down here in person. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, it's just the 3 of us. The wife's staying here.
Okay.
She's all traveled out for this summer, so she's going to stay home.
Awesome.
So it's a dude's weekend. We're going to pick up some bitches and roll some blunts.
I love it. Thank you so much, Greg. We'll do it again next week. I can't wait.
All right, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Okay, pal. Bye-bye.